You know, I just don't feel like white jigs like this Nichols sledgehammer really get the attention they deserve. White jigs have been catching big fish for many, many years, but I feel like they've been overshadowed by, you know, all the other baits that have come out. But if you look at it, you think about like a vibrating jig or a spinnerbait, it's basically the same thing without the arms and the components on it, a more finesse approach, and it will catch big fish. And this one right here has got a super strong hook. Head design's really good for swimming, low profile line tie, I like that. Good weed guard on it. Just a very simple, strong white jig that's gonna catch fish. You need stained to clear water to use a jig like this, swim it and get a reaction. It's a very visual strike for these fish. But this bright white, it'll stand out in stained water. It's mostly a shallow technique. You could use it out in mid-water, deep water for suspended fish, but really how I like to use it is around fish that are shallow. Even though I'm fishing like 20 feet deep right now, or my boat is sitting in 20 feet of water, I'm only fishing this a few feet below the surface. It's for those fish that are suspended around structure. But I just don't use a steady retrieve. I almost always will bob my rod or bounce my rod tip as I'm reeling it, just to give it that little scoot kind of action. And it's not a bad idea just to let this sink every once in a while too. Like I just had that bite back there on the corner. Give it a pause, just let it sink. You know, I'm fishing this on a 7-foot heavy rod with 18-pound fluorocarbon line, high-speed gear ratio reel. So on a light wire swim jig hook, that's gonna bend that out when a fish gets you into some cover and you really gotta put a lot of pressure on them. With this one, you've got a heavy, heavy duty hook. You could actually catch striper with this. It's that heavy. So on a big bass, you got no problem. Now, one of the other places I like to fish jigs like this is around marina docks. One of the reasons is there's a lot of shade and there's a lot of good growth around the edges of the marinas, so the shad like to get in there. And during the middle of the day, you could really get in there, skip your bait, throw it up under some docks in areas that have shade, and it becomes more productive. You know, you can really target in where those fish are gonna be. It's more predictable as, you know, fishing riprap and tires and break walls and things like that. That's usually a little bit better in the mornings. And areas like this that have more predictable shade, better shade, that gets better in the afternoon. But you want to try to find those little nooks, those little crannies, those little areas that are going to hold fish. I like to call them ambush points. You know, bass will just sit down there and they'll wait for something to swim by. So mentally, you just need to be calculating, you know, where would a bait fish be swimming by and where would a bass sit? That's a nice, easy, lazy place for him to sit, and then be able to jump out and attack a shad or a bait fish that swims by. And there's tons and tons of places in marinas where you can find little spots like that. If you look at these big man-made structures, sometimes you'll see cables coming off of them, you know, around docks and different sorts of structures. And a lot of times those cables will go out into the water and they'll hold bait fish and they'll hold you know, predator fish as well. You'll get them hung up. You'll get crankbaits and stuff like that hung up in them a lot. So having a jig like this is nice, where you can just let it go down that little cable or wire, whatever it is, not have to worry about it too much.
If you struggle with excess missed hook sets and problems with knots and just not catching fish in general, subscribe here to the Mystery Tackle Box channel. And there's other videos here that you can click on that'll help advance your journey into fishing greatness.